Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to learn how to add new obstacles and how to reskin the template. Now, if we were to go to the forum, which is the post about the Build-An-Obby game jam, and you scroll down, you can see here how it works and everything inside of this forum explains it all. So if you go to theme, you see that we have to include all three obstacles. That's the static trap, moving traps, trapdoors, and at least add 3 new obstacles to your own creation. So if we were to go to the template right here, you can see we have full traps, we have static traps, and we have moving traps. So you have to keep them, but you can reskin them if you want. And I'm gonna explain how to do that in a second. But first, I need you to focus on something. Right here, there's something called NavMesh. If you don't know what NavMesh is, it's basically the path that the player walk on. So if I navigate to the AI navigation and I expand the surface and I click on show only select, actually show NavMesh, you can see here the NavMesh, this is where the player can move and it's cut here. And to fix this issue, it's actually pretty simple. You might not have it cut like that, but you will have it when you clear the NavMesh. And if you were to clear the NavMesh, for example, if you add a new obstacle, let's say you add a new floor like that, the player won't be able to walk on this floor unless you clear and bake the NavMesh. So to clear it, go to the NavMesh and then in the hierarchy and then click clear and then bake again. Now you can see here that the player can move on this platform right here, but it's still cutting this trap or this gate, okay? And to fix it, it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to clear this and I'm going to go to Window, AI, Navigation. It will open up this little window, and in the radius you have to reduce it to 0.3, so from 0.4 to 0.3. And once you do that, just click Ctrl S and you can exit, and now you can bake the NavMesh, and you can see here it's fixed. That easy. That's all you need to do. And for example, if you delete one of the platforms, you go back to the NavMesh, clear, and then bake it again, and that's all you need. Okay, so now if you want to reskin the template and you want to keep the following traps, for example, the moving traps, but you want to change the cube, if you select any of them, for example, let's select this one, and you go to the hierarchy, you expand the moving death trigger, you see here we have point B, which will never change, but the death trigger has a cube inside of it. Now the death trigger has a script attached to it, so it's not attached to the cube. So if you remove this cube, for example, if I go to the cube and I hide it, it would still work the same way. But let's hide the mesh renderer, for example, and you can see here that we still have the whole thing, but we don't have a mesh or actual object that renders. So if you were to just change the cube itself, but you don't want to mess up any script, you go to Highrise, for example, asset catalogs, and you move this. I'm gonna move it right here, and then we have something called animated saw blade. You can use any object. You can even use a tree and make it move. It's really up to you. So I'm gonna download the animated saw blade, and I'm going to drag and drop this inside the death trigger in here. So once that's done, you can move this up if you want, just to make it match the like that, and then you have to go to the cube, and you don't need this anymore, but the only thing that you need is the death trigger. So you have to move the box collider up. So if I move, you can maybe make it a little bit bigger and just move it up, and then make it a bit bigger on the width, and then make it something like that. And you can mess around with this. Even you can click on the edit and just, drag, bend it, do whatever you want with this. Right? So now if I save this, okay, so Ctrl S, and I hit play, let me go to the game view, and I hit play, you can see here that it's working. It's still the same object. And if you want to test it, let's just go and test it. You can see here that it's working. And it's working because we still have the same script on it. We just edited the box collider to make it match the item that we have, and we just added another model. And that's all you need. That's basically all you need. And if you want to do this again, you can just drag and drop this blade instead of the cube. So just drag and drop this in here. You can remove the cube now. You can get rid of the whole cube, and then move this up if you want. If you don't know how I zoomed in, you just select an object, for example, and you click F on your keyboard. That's how you zoom in. So click F on your keyboard, and then just edit the box collider, move it up if you want, and make it a bit bigger, and just mess around with this however you want, and this should work just fine, just like that. and the blade will now start moving. Now this is if you want to reskin the existing templates or existing models or traps. But now if you want to add more traps or you want to install more assets or get assets from the Unity store, you have to go to Windows and then Asset Store, and this will open up for you. You have to create a new account. If you don't have an account, please sign in. So I'm going to sign in. So now that I signed in, I have 2 packs for you. The first one is Dungeon Low Poly Tomb Battle Arena. So just search for this one and you can install it. And there's also the other one, which is Hyper Casual Obstacle. And if you want to add this to your assets, just click on Add to Assets, Accept, and then open in Unity and open in Unity Editor. Now this will open up, and just simply click on Download and wait for it to install, and then click Import. And if it asks you to upgrade, you can just upgrade it. And in here, there are a few things that you need to change. The controller, you don't need them. The main camera controller, you don't need that. And if there's any scripts, you don't need the scenes or the demo. You only need the prefabs, the models, and the material with the animation. So click on Import and wait for it to import. When that's done, I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go back to the dungeon low poly. I already have that, so if you don't have it, just install it the same way we installed the hyper casual obstacle pack. Click on open in Unity and then open Unity editor, and this will open up again, and you have to hit download and then import it. Again, what we don't need right here is basically the readme, we don't need that, the scenes, we don't need it, and the scripts. You have to remove the scripts because Highrise Studio does not support C#. So click on import and wait for it to import. Now that's done, I can close this. And if I come here to my project and I expand the dungeon pack and I go to, for example, the traps, and you can see here that our traps are, if I move this, it's basically pink. And if you want to fix this issue, you basically go to Window and then you go to rendering and then render pipeline converter, and then you check on material upgrade and then initialize converter, save and continue, and then initialize and convert. This will basically fix the issue for you, and that's all you need. Now, if we were to make this a trap, or if you want to make this work as a death trigger, if this one has an animation, you can see here that it says animator, and if you want to open the animation tab, you go to Window and then animation and then animation. Now I can move this and put it here next to the asset catalog, and I can select this object and I can hit play. You can see that it moves. Now that's what we want. And if you want to create a death trigger, or if you want to assign a script to that object, you don't want to assign the script to the whole thing. You only want it to be working on the blade because you want to be able to pass through the gate, but the blade must hit you, and if it hits you, you basically respawn, right? So we're gonna find the blade, and it's called blade 01D, and that's what we need to edit right here. The first thing we are going to change is the layer. The layer must be character trigger, and then we are going to add a component, and that component must be a box collider. So whenever the player hit that collider, it will basically trigger the script that we have, and then enable the is trigger on. And again, you can mess around with the box collider however you want. If you want to change the X or the Z or anything you want, if you want to move it, but obviously you have to make it perfect, so whenever the actual blade hits the player, they respawn. And once that's done, we are going to assign the script. So we're going to the project panel, and we're going to scripts and traps, and move the death trigger and put it here. Now this is not moving, it's animating. Remember, there's a huge difference between animating and moving. When it's moving, it's set to move in the script, but when it's animating by itself. So the moving should not be changed. If you go to the trap sound and you add the trap that you have and you save, and again, if you want to bake the NavMesh, it's really up to you. Whenever you add something, you have to bake it. Again, you go to NavMesh and you click on bake. Now, if we were to test this object or trap, let's hit play. Now in the play mode, let me select the checkpoint. If I move to the blade, it will basically hit me and it will respawn on the spawn. So just like that. If I stand here, it will not hit me until it reaches my avatar, as you can see. Now that's basically it. And if you were to add more items, you can do the same for every single trap for every single object. So you go to traps, for example. Let's see what other traps we have. Actually, you have to go to the scene. Sorry, and then let's move around a bit. So for example, there's this trap right here. Doesn't have an animator. I don't know what this is exactly, but it's a trap door. Oh, okay, so it's a trap door. There's also here. Yeah, so you can basically create whatever you want. And if you were to add, for example, if you want to make this a trap, you basically add component, box collider, and then you attach the script that we have here in the traps and you move it here. Again, you set the audio to trap and you remove the moving, you set it to false, and duration, it doesn't matter. Point B doesn't matter because it's not moving. And that's all you need to understand. And now if I were to, okay, and again, don't forget, please do not forget this. The layer must be character trigger. If it's not set to character trigger, it will not work. So make sure you set this to character trigger. Now that's done, you save, and you basically have the traps that you want. Now, if you were to edit the lighting, it's just a quick tip. Go to the object itself, set it to static, not with the children. This object only, and for example, set these to static again, but keep this without static because this will basically be moving, and you don't want it to cast shadows. Once you do that, set these to light maps. Make sure they are set to light maps, and go to lighting. If you don't have this panel, go to window and then and then rendering and then lighting, and this will open up. Now you basically clear the baked data and then you hit generate lights again. That's all you need. Okay, so let's say you want to create an audio shader, because we've been working with audio shader a lot, and if you want to create your own audio shaders, you basically go to audio, you drag whatever audio you have and you put it in here, and then you right click, create, and then you go to Highrise, audio, and audio shader. You give this whatever name you want. For example, I'm going to say custom audio, and then once you do that, you go to the inspector panel and you expand the clips. You click on the plus icon and then you click on the circle and you select the audio that you have right here. For example, let's just say victory, and this will create an audio shader. And later on, for example, in our scripts, let's say the saw blade and the death trigger, for example. See here that it has audio. You can just drag and drop the custom audio in here. That's only if you have a custom audio you want to add. And that's it.